Luck is a huge deciding factor of Mario Kart World, and there will be times when you feel like you raced a perfect race and still wound up in the bottom half of the results because of a barrage of shells, unfortunately timed lightning bolts, fireballs, ice balls, or a destructive cocktail of everything all at once.
The best weapon you have against the RNG gods is track knowledge and knowing when to use mushrooms, grind rails, and wall runs to cut corners, cross gaps, and take shortcuts that most players won't even know exist.
Which is why we're here to impart our track knowledge to you.
I'm Logan from NBC.
And I'm Mitchell from the Guides team, and these are 2 to 3 tips for each track you really should know in Mario Kart World. Starting off with Desert Hills, if you have a mushroom, the best place to use it is after the big ramp, veer to the right and trick over the first sand dune, then start drifting to the right before the second dune and don't trick over it. Your goal is to drift into the deep sand straight ahead, boosting as soon as you're off course, going through the hole and using your drift mini boost just as the mushroom boost ends to keep your speed as you wind up back on the course on the other side. For when you don't have a mushroom, after you drift around the corner with the shortcut, start charging a super jump and aim for the wall to the right. Wall run up, grind on the edge, and you'll be able to skip a couple of the turns, saving a bit of time.
This N64 Classic has been rebuilt with World's new mechanics in mind, and there are a ton of rails to ride. After the first turn, you'll immediately approach a big ramp. Hang to the right side of the ramp, trick off of it, and wall ride up to the rail. Once you're grinding, hop back and forth between the rails to build speed, and then, using the speed from your final trick, you can launch yourself all the way over to the next rail on the other side of the track, cutting a nice amount of this section. Later in the course, after Wario Stadium's huge jump, you'll want to use a mushroom here while drifting through the tires to cut this wide U-turn.
Right at the start of Whistlestop Summit is a railroad track that you can grind on the left side. To maximize your speed, grind the left rail, then quickly get onto the yellow one, hop back onto the train rail when the track straightens out, and then continue on this rail until you're back on the straightaway. From here, keep on doing tricks to get mini speed boosts while on the rail. The next one is a bit risky, but it's worth practicing. After the bridge, charge a jump and align yourself with this bush in the grass. As soon as you touch the grass, jump to the left onto the wall, then quickly jump off to the other wall on the right, then hop off again into a drift. You may catch the rail, in which case you should try to jump off to the left and make a tighter turn around the corner. And for one more shortcut, when you're in the tunnel, grind the rightmost train rail and hop to the right to the yellow pipe at the end. Jump to the next pipe, follow it all the way until you're able to jump to the right and wall run it until you can jump back to the left on the train track. From here, jump straight forwards towards the green, start a drift to the right when you land, and use a mushroom to plow through the box and cut the corner, using your drift boost as always to keep your speed up after the mushroom boost ends.
There's a fun alternate path in Bowser's Castle you can access right from the start. For time trials, it doesn't save a ton of time, but in hectic races, it's nice to break away from the field for a moment and guarantee yourself an item box up top. From the start of the race, line yourself up so you're heading directly toward the giant chain that leads up to the top level of the map. Trick onto the chain, and after grabbing the coin, trick forward off of it to find yourself on the upper level of Bowser's Castle. After you grind a couple rails, you'll drop back down to the main level of the course. This next tip is tricky. After flying through the big lava vortex, look for a small outcrop of rocks on the right that can be used as a ramp. You can trick off of this and aim for the wall below to trigger a wall ride. While driving on the wall, before hitting the lava pouring over, start mashing the trick button while holding right to launch yourself all the way to the platform with the giant Bowser made out of lava. In the wide left turn immediately after this, you can cut through the lava if you have a mushroom to save some time.
DK Spaceport is structured like the original Donkey Kong's first level, which means it's a bunch of slanted straightaways with obstacles that are connected by a tight turn for each one. You'll want to make sure you're saving your mushrooms to cut the corners on those tight turns. When you reach the part of the track where there are grind rails above, make sure you grind along the rails and hop between them for a mini boost each time you land. like so.
Our two tips for this classic DS remake happen back to back. Right at the beginning of Airship Fortress, leap to the rail on the left and do tricks over and over to build some speed. Right as the rail begins to curve to the left, trick off to the right and land at the other rail. From here, you can ride the chain up and, before reaching the top, trick forward to fall down onto the red rail below to take a very efficient sharp turn. Just make sure you hop off forward in time before you ride the rail too long to make the best use of this shortcut.
Koopa Troopa Beach is basically Mario Kart World's version of Baby Park, so there's not a ton in the way of actual shortcuts here, except for one. After the spot with the Cheeps in the water, if you have a mushroom, line yourself up with the crates on the left side and start charging a jump. Fire off your mushroom right as you touch the grass, and jump to trick over the crates and cut off the entire next turn. Beyond that, it's all just about hugging the corners as close as you can with your drifts, and making sure to get the most out of your drift mini boosts.
Toad's Factory doesn't have a ton of shortcut potential, but there's a good spot to make up some time on the final turn of the lap. If you have a mushroom or star, you can boost through the mud to cut off a huge amount of the last corner. However, another route is hiding in plain sight, and it's one of my favorite shortcuts in World. If you don't have a mushroom, you can still cut this in a much more stylish way. Before dropping down from the factory back onto the dirt road, you'll see a giant beam being held up by a crane to your left. Jump onto that, and trick off to the right to launch yourself to the next beam. Try and land on one of the boost pads below and you'll save a nice amount of time. Earlier in the track, right after the left and right conveyor belts, prepare a charge jump and ride this rail up to a higher level. From here, you can grind on a rail and grab some coins, and hopefully avoid some of the chaos below.
After the Triceratops around the first corner, you'll spot the ramp that takes you into the laboratory. Instead of going on the ramp, go past the signs and line yourself up to grind the back of the Brontosaurus, giving you a direct path to the top. After that shortcut, you'll find yourself in a tunnel. Do a hard right drift around the corner and use your mushroom and drift boost combo to cut across the Dino exhibit and save a bunch of time.
Right after the start of the race, get a charge jump ready and leap to the wall on the right of the first turn. Once the ground is safe again after the lava, flip off the wall for a nice boost and a good way to get a little bit ahead early. Later, when you're gliding towards the giant dry bone skeleton in the middle of the lap, make sure to take the left route. This will set you up for a shortcut at the end, and overall there are more opportunities to get ahead on this side. At the final ramp of this section, trick towards the wall on the right to briefly wall ride before falling off the wall and aiming towards a small green rail below you. Land it and trick off this rail for a boost of speed you can ride out to the finish line. Or if you have a mushroom, you can boost through this giant pool of lava to cut a huge amount of the track right before the end.
If you're a fan of high-risk, high-reward shortcuts that are super difficult, they don't get any riskier, more rewarding, or really more difficult than the shortcuts on the Great Question Block Ruins. These will all take some practice, so don't attempt them unless you're confident that you can nail them reliably. If you have a mushroom, you can save a bunch of time right at the start by drifting around this torch, boosting when you touch the grass, leaning as far into the turn as you can, letting go of your drift right when the mushroom boost runs out, and tricking off this small ramp while veering to the left. If you did it perfectly, you'll be able to grind on the rail, trick off of it, and then land directly onto the rail on the spiral ramp just up ahead, saving a ton of time. The key to consistency here is to make sure that you're aiming to crash through the second set of crates to the left of this stack of 3. But what if you don't have a mushroom? You can still save a bunch of time on this same part of the track by charging a hop when you're about to enter the question block. Grind the rail, trick off it into a drift to the right for a blue mini boost, then charge a jump and don't trick off the ramp. When you touch the ground, use your jump to get onto the rail on the left and ride it down, cutting the corner of what's otherwise a very tough turn. And then there's the mother of all shortcuts. After bouncing on the cloud, look to grind the rail to the right. Trick twice on it to gain some speed, then trick off the edge, Kiss the column on the right side, and when you land, head straight for the leftmost cone. Head towards the giant ring, and at the last instant, veer to the left and wall run off it while tricking as much as you can to get to the left and wall ride up the wall. Keep on wall riding until you see red sparks, then jump off the right to land back on the course. And finally, if you want an easy shortcut, on this last turn before the launcher that takes you back to the starting line, you can drift and cut this corner, saving you a bunch of time on an otherwise very wide turn.
After coming out of the initial tunnel, you'll see a big left turn with a drop-off on the right. In the middle of that drop-off is a large DK sign perfect for tricking off of. Drive straight towards it, trick off the ledge, perform another trick on the post, and you should safely land on the other side of the drop-off with a nice boost as an added bonus. Immediately after this is a large snowy area perfect for using a mushroom through if you've got one. Later, you can cut a big part of the last turn of the track with a well-timed mushroom. Use it while you drift to the right to save some time.
If you have a mushroom in lap 1, a really good spot to use it to cut a corner is on the last turn where you see a bunch of paratroopers. Hug the wall and boost over the grass as you drift to the right. In lap 2, when you're riding through the little town, just after the cake sign, start drifting to the left and aim to plow through these boxes with a mushroom. And in lap 3, look to the left while you're on the water for another stack of boxes that you can plow through with a mushroom to cut a corner and get some time on solid ground where you can move faster.
In the opening descent of this track, before the orange metal road turns back into the dirt path, you can trick onto the wall and ride it all the way until you can trick off of it to reach an alternate higher path that includes a couple of boost pads. This isn't significantly faster, but can be a nice way to avoid the chaos of the lower route in a versus race. Dandelion Depths doesn't have many shortcuts, so you need to try to go straight as fast as possible. In this extremely wide and linear section, you want to perform as many tricks as you can, so remember to trick the exact moment you emerge from the water. The best place to make up ground with a mushroom or star is the final turn of the track, where you can ride the inside corner hard if you have the right item. This will help you hopefully pass a bunch of opponents right at the end.
In lap 1, after coming up the stairs with the red rail in the middle, start a drift and use a mushroom to cut across the grass and save a bunch of time. In lap 3, make sure you hold onto your mushroom so you can cut across either or both of these grassy areas with boxes to save a ton of time. Right after coming through that shortcut, start charging a super jump and look to wall run up the building on the left to grind on this pipe. Follow it all the way to the end where you need to make a left trick off the pipe while veering left, but stop once you get close to this tree, which you can trick off of, extending your aerial momentum and letting you land on this platform far to the left, cutting off a major turn and giving you another opportunity to trick off the ledge for another mini boost as you close in on the finish line.
Boo Cinema has one of the coolest aesthetics of any track in Mario Kart World, but in terms of its layout, it's one of the more straightforward ones. You'll want to use a mushroom right at the start to cut across the wooden planks on the right of the track. When you're in the movie itself, take a look at which way the film is rotating. It changes on each lap, but one of the two is always rotating counterclockwise, which means riding it will push you forward slightly faster than just staying on the road.
At the starting line of the race, there are a bunch of tires obscuring a small grindable pipe. If you have a mushroom, you can crash through the tires to grind on the pipe and skip a bunch of the opening turns. After the long corkscrew turn, veer to the right and jump off where the green construction floor is. Jump off the second ramp, and then as you land, do a drift to the left as you hit the speed ramp. As you fly off to the left towards the stands, aim to grind on the yellow rail. You can then trick off of it to the left and aim to grind the green pipe right next to the starting line.
Peach Stadium is mostly about classic mushroom shortcuts. Use a mushroom on the first big right turn and hug as close as you can to the tires to cut a lot of the track. There's another good opportunity for a mushroom near the end before the final sweeping left turn. There is one fun alternate route you can take. After climbing the big hill with lots of boost pads, take the jump on the left side, trick, and land on this grind rail. Then jump off to the right platform, and you can leap off this edge to land on this grind rail, which lets you take this corkscrew turn really tight.
If you're starting near the right side on the starting line, hit a starting light boost by holding the gas when you see the number 2, ride through the sand, and trick off the bump to grind the rail, then quickly trick again to the right to get onto the rope leading to the rooftops. Just follow the straightforward path above the stalls until you reach the speed ramp at the end. After getting through the Bazaar portion of Guy Bazaar, you'll hit a ramp that launches you high into the air. If you veer to the left and aim to grind the edge of the wall right next to the bridge, you can gain a lot of speed by tricking straight ahead before hitting another ramp that will put you back on the main course. When you land after the paraglider section, if you have a mushroom, you can cut this last corner, hug the right wall, and you'll be in prime position to get back on the rail that was part of the first shortcut.
This classic simple track has a few clear mushroom shortcuts to find, including this one that leads to a ramp you can trick off, and this one at the very end of the track. But if you want to get crazy, there is a high-level shortcut you can try if you have a mushroom. Near the halfway point of the track, after the first path where the cows are grazing, you'll spot a tree on top of a small hill. Line up directly with the tree and prepare a charge jump. The second you reach the edge of the grass, use your mushroom and release your charge jump to the left just a split second later to launch yourself to the tree. Make sure to stay on the right side of the tree, otherwise Lakitu will stop you, and trick off the tree and aim to land back on the track on the other side of the shortcut.
In Choco Mountain, it's pretty simple. The two spots you want to use a mushroom are both right at the beginning of the track. The first turn right at the starting line, and then the next one just after it. You'll want to make sure if you decide to use a mushroom to cut across the second chocolate pond that you're drifting into the turn and using both your mushroom's boost and the mini boost from the drift to get all the way through it. If you're on the final lap and you need to make up a bit of time, you could also keep drifting right after coming out of the spiral, mushroom through the dirt, and aim to trick off this ramp to cut off a bit of the track.
If you have a mushroom, you can use it right after the boost ramp following Wario Shipyard's opening turn. Hug the right side when you take the ramp and use your mushroom to boost over the sandbar right as you land while turning right. At the final stretch before the giant cannon, you can trick off the side of the ramp to briefly wall ride to get another free trick. Then, once you land and go through the cannon, ride the rope of the sunken mast on the left and trick to the one on the right to avoid going in the water below altogether. When you land at the final bend of the lap, immediately start drifting and head to the small ramp on the right side. If you trick off this right after using your mini turbo boost from the drift, you should be able to launch yourself straight to the rail on the right side of the road by the finish line.
There are two different shortcuts in the same area. One is fairly risky and challenging, but is more rewarding. The other is substantially easier, but saves less time. For the easy one, after the ramp on the northern part of the track, drift hard to the right and look to trick off the edge, but aim to wall ride and then grind on the green pipe. Trick off to the wall on the right, ride it all the way, then trick off to the left to land on the roof. Immediately drift to the right to keep on the rooftop until you reach a boost, taking you back to the main track. For the more difficult shortcut, after climbing the two sets of stairs, do a rightwards drift under the gazebo and look to wall ride the column on the right as you hit the next ramp so that you can get enough aerial momentum to reach the platform above the green. When you land, do a drift to the right to get around the corner to save you a bunch of time. And finally, if you have a mushroom, once you're in the open water, line yourself up with the pier, and as soon as you're on solid ground, start a drift to the right and then immediately boost to crash through the boxes, while staying on the ground as you round the corner.
Acorn Heights has a lot of rails and branching paths, and after the initial climb up the first tree, you'll want to ride this rail on the right and launch yourself to the ramp that transforms you into a plane. The next section has a lot of big leaves to ride, but you want to hang on the left side as much as possible, tricking wherever you can. Then, if you have a mushroom, you'll see a house right in front of a big left turn. Cut in front of the house and use your mushroom over the dirt patch for a big time-saving shortcut. Near the end of the lap, you'll see 3 parallel vine rails. Grind on the first one and trick forward on it, and the second you land and get your boost, trick left to the next rail. Repeat this process to jump from the second to the third, and you'll quickly find yourself back at the finish line.
After the long right turn, you'll hit a couple of ramps. When you hit the second ramp, aim for the rail in the middle, trick off the ramp and veer to the left to grind the rail, then trick to the left to wall run the sign for a quick second, get back onto the rail, ride it all the way to the end where you can trick off it straight away, trick after coming out of the water to ride the rail, and then finally trick to the left to get back onto the course. Not too shabby for a shortcut that doesn't require a mushroom. For one that does require a mushroom, once you're through the waterfall turn, you can cut through the grass with a stack of crates by boosting through them with said mushroom.
After the opening gliding section where you're going up Skyhigh Sundae's first hill, you can use a mushroom here to boost through the chocolate to save some time. Most of this track is about timely tricks, but there's one high-level maneuver at the end that can save you some time. At the final big U-turn of the lap, drop down off the left side and begin wall riding on the cones. Before you fall off, trick off the wall and you should land on the wall on the other side of the bend. Trick off one more time to land back on the track and head straight to the finish line.
There are 2 fairly obvious spots to use mushrooms in this track. The first is the big turn on the eastern part of the track. Drift early onto the sandy part of the turn, and then boost as soon as you touch ground, taking your boost around the corner and releasing the mini boost once you're on the other side. The second is after coming down the Roaring Rapid section on the southern part of the track. Once you hit the water, start drifting to the right and use a mushroom to boost through the crates to wind up on the other side of the turn and right at the starting line again.
There aren't many shortcut opportunities on Starview Peak, but if you have a mushroom, the best time to use it is during the boat section on this patch of snow. Also, it's worth noting that you can hit the very edge of these snowflake-shaped boost rings and still get the full effect of the speed boost, so try to keep the most efficient route while nicking the very edge of them.
Mario Circuit is a fairly straightforward course, but there are several spots where you can shave off a substantial amount of time by leaping onto the block walls of the track. These are fairly tricky and have very precise jumps that you have to hit, so use with caution. After the third turn, you'll hit a bit of a straightaway. When you pass the green and white markings on the ground on the right side, start charging a super jump, veer slightly to the right, and then do a leftwards jump to get onto the block wall and completely skip the next wide turn. In lap 2, if you have a triple or super mushroom, head straight instead of following the road through the blue pylons, and use your mushrooms as soon as you drift to the left, cutting off a huge part of the regular course. In lap 3, after the first turn, you can skip the next one by, again, charging a super jump and using it to hop onto the block straight ahead. You can do another jump to bypass the very last turn of the race, leading into the finish line.
Mario Kart World's Rainbow Road is a masterpiece and easily the highlight of this track lineup, but there surprisingly aren't that many shortcuts to find. Before the end of the first lap on the left path, you can jump over this gap to skip a nice chunk of the track. In the water section, don't miss this ramp you can reach on the left side with a mushroom. At the start of the space station section, you can use a mushroom through this rough patch to trick off this ramp to get back on the main track. Finally, you can use a mushroom across this rough, glittery terrain in the map's final section. But beyond these minor tips, you just have to race well and enjoy the sights and sounds. And those are 2 to 3 tips for all 30 tracks in Mario Kart World. Thanks for watching, and for more Mario Kart World tips and tricks, make sure to check out our video covering some Knockout Tour specific tips. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.